Dr. Dev, there's about a million directions we can go in this conversation, from what drives your obsession with changing healthcare to how you're raising the next generation in an AI world, and what you wish you'd known before putting founder and surgeon in the same sentence. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive right in.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Gagan, for having me.
Tell me where it all started.
It's a long time back. Actually, I would say it's all started in a very small town called as Nirvana, where I grew up, and I didn't know the world is so big. In that small town, usually people just study, and that was our upbringing. All we used to see is engineering and medical people cracking exams, and there were few civil services exam people as well who used to do very well. And it started because they were quite respected, and everybody used to ask the advice from them. So that's why we also got influenced by such kind of attention. And I felt that I have to do something great as well at some point. So yeah, I mean, at that time, I was so much hardworking and dedicated. I feel like I used to study around 14 to 15 hours a day and used to sleep around like 6 hours, and that's it. That's how the day used to go. I did very well in medical entrance examinations in India. I got entrance in all the examinations which I did at that time into. Yeah, so that's how it all began when I got entry into my MBBS examination and became a doctor.
Excellent story, but more importantly, you've done better than most people that can aspire to. You ranked first in the state pre medical entrance exam, and you ranked 7th in the prestigious AIMS entrance exam. So tell me more about what drove you. You mentioned that you come from a town where everybody was ambitious, but who were the early inspiration and people you looked up to?
It's a hard question. The main inspiration was that I need to be a doctor, and there was a one very silly thing. There used to be a small TV program at that time called Sanjeevani,
I remember that.
and I used to watch that while I was trying to prepare for pre-medical entrance examination, because that used to come at around like dinner time, and that was the only time I used to take for my break. So yeah, you always build those kind of dreams. Okay, I'm going to practice this and that. At that time, I didn't know like how medical field is, and you always feel like, oh, after being doctor, everything is going to be great.
Most inspiration comes from pop culture, likely, but really, really refreshing to see even people who actually did very well got their inspiration from popular TV series of the time. Sanjeevni.
Correct. Yeah, so it's a silly thing. See, in those places, you don't know where you fare in the competition. So I didn't know whether I'm good or bad. There hardly used to be people who used to get into entrance examinations. People used to go for biology or let's say chemistry or these kind of subjects after doing their 12th. So one thing was clear: I need to go somewhere in MBBS maybe. I don't want to do BSc and the traditional paths. That was one thing which was clear. And my father was professor as well of chemistry, so he also helped me in doing everything what I did. That's why all the hard work and analytical skills were already there, and he also imbibed me very well how to analyze things. So yeah, that helped me a lot.
How competitive were you growing up? Obviously, to be able to succeed in these exams, which are the world's toughest exams, one has to be hyper competitive. And more importantly, you have to be realistic, but at the same time, you have to have ruthless ambition. So tell me more about what drove you and how did you cope up with tremendous pressure of competition?
I was not knowing in MBBS examination that I'm good. So I went to Delhi to see how I am and how I'll do within the crowd. And that's how my strategy is usually. I usually go to a higher place, see and analyze for a month or 2 or 3, that how I am doing within the competition, then make my strategy afterwards, that what shortcomings are there in my game and how I have to up my game. And that's exactly how I did it in my MBBS examination. I went to Delhi in Southex Akash Institute for 2 3 months. I was lucky as well. I mean, I worked hard already because I was knowing many things which working continuously on them, and I used to study a lot, 10 to 14, 15 hours a day. So I was very determined. So when I went to Delhi, I used a test and discussion only course. So in that, they don't teach anything; they just take tests basically. That was the whole motive, just how I am in the crowd and how the competition will be. And Akash used to be one of the good institutes where all the people used to come as well to study. If somebody at that time,
I went there too.
is it? It was tough to get a first position, or let's say to stand in first five. People used to say, if you are doing even 50 or let's say 70 up to 70 rank, there is short selection. That's how they used to say. But what happened is I continuously came 5 times first, basically in their tests, which they used to take every week. And I thought like I'm gonna do right because I know that. And then I came back. I left that. I thought like I'm gonna do right. I have to just continue what I'm doing, and that's it. I will be all right. When you are young, the doubt is less. I had very less doubt at that stage in my mind that I'm not going to do well. I always had that confidence. Okay, I'm going to do pretty well. The only thing which happened is the first rank came as a surprise. I knew that I'm going to do okay. I mean, I was knowing whole test and everything. But then I was searching where is my rank, and there was nothing in front. And the roll numbers used to be huge. So the ranks used to be huge as well, let's say in thousands. And when I saw like there is only one number in front of my roll number, I was like surprised. I mean, there is something wrong or something. And in those days, the ranks used to come on newspaper. I thought there is some misprinting or something. I mean, they have forgotten to put something in front of this because it didn't felt realistic that you cannot have first number or just one number in front of your roll number. So I went online as well. So they started online also, but then there used to be like internet problems, very few internet centers and things like that. But luckily, I got to know that afterwards, after a lot of hard work, that yes, on that day, I'm like number one rank. And I was very happy, super happy actually. But before that, I had entrance in basically cracked in AFMC Pune, CBSE as well, BHU, almost all of them. Unfortunately, I had some fever on the day of All India Medical Sciences exam day, and that is the very painful kind of memory. I still remember it, and I struggled to do fairly good on that day, only on that day, and that's why I had this in mind that I have to crack him no matter what, and that's why in postgraduate examination I did prepare right from the beginning, and that's how it worked out. Like I did my post graduation where I wanted, basically. So it's a hard and tough thing. I agree. If you ask me now whether you can do it now, I'll not be able to do it. I feel like I think those are the days when you can put that much hard work and determination. I feel
I think eliminating self doubt is quite important.
absolutely
And early on, most people, including myself, are filled with self doubt because you're trying to figure things out. So
correct.
it's really, really inspirational and quite impressive as well for somebody at that age to have tremendous self confidence and belief that I don't have any doubt and I'm going to do it. And you exemplified it of actually not having to inculcate self doubt even when you're early on in your career. Tell me more about how you use that self confidence in your leadership style today.
I totally agree on that point that self doubt is one of the thing which holds us back to do full step and taking a full stride. And I always feel like you can compare it how you walk. Now your mind knows where my foot should be planted, and it doesn't have any doubt like whether it will be planted or not. You know that I'll be fine, and that's why you keep on walking very well. And I think that is also again a leadership trait in the mind, and that is most important bit. I think all the leaders usually are able to see in their mind and know what steps should be taken to navigate the uncertainty. And I think that's the biggest trait in leaders because they know before all the people how to go and navigate this path in uncertainty. And then they can guide it with full confidence in front of their team. And once the team feel that this guy is able to take all the steps and he is going to be able to navigate that uncertain path for us, then they put their belief into you as well. And that's how the team starts working together. And I think that is one of the most important key kind of trait that you can make your team believe in you, that you will be able to circumvent that uncertainty initially, because before any aim or goal which you want to achieve, there is 100% uncertainty. Only after few you start seeing what needs to be done further to fully tackle this problem. And I think that's most important bit, in my view.
Uncertainty and navigating uncertainty, I think this is the biggest asset that leaders have. And
The
it's
second thing
also
I would
true.
say is they have the communication skills as well. I think the communication is key, the way you present it in front of your team. If you will, I've seen few people who know that how things would be happening and what steps they need to take, but they are not able to communicate it that very well in front of their team. And I think usually the team is very important. You cannot do it alone, especially the big tasks. There are tasks in corporate world which you have to do as a team, cannot do alone. And then those issues, I feel you have to be able to communicate it very well to your team, that what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve. It should be clear communication. Unless that is there, and unless your team believes in you, I don't feel the teams get successful.
You work with surgeons. You also work with entrepreneurs as an advisor and as a co-founder. And as a chief medical officer, you also work with executives. What is the difference in managing all these three? Because these are completely three different disciplines, in my opinion. So how do you manage all these three different strands?
I think that's a beautiful question, and it's a very important question as well. So there are teams, and I would say I think medicine is very hierarchical pattern of work. You have to do each rank. It's and you cannot jump it in medicine. Whereas in other, as you said, like entrepreneurship, in corporate world where I'm working as chief medical officer, probably there is some scope of jumping as well. You can jump and outrank because this is your domain. Whereas in medicine, people will not allow it. People have too much ego in their mind that I am at a senior level and senior rank. So I think those tactics and dynamics of the team there becomes very important. Even if, let's say surgery will be done, and but then you have let's say an orthodox surgeon who is senior than you have to give full respect to him, and you can't say much. You can try to convince him that the way you do or the way you feel is going to be the best for the patient should be discussed in a very humble manner. So I think in a way it's very helpful to work with your seniors in corporate side, because I think in corporate side as well, it's very important that you have to be very humble to present your new idea or whatever you want to work on. And then you have to just convince the team that yes, the way you are saying is the best way. But the stakes are different. In medicine, you have to be very safe, sound, and execute it to perfection. Whereas in corporate side, the money or the monetary loss is looking in front of you. So the agility of the action and the way you handle your team, the confidence becomes more important for the team itself. And there are different stages as well where different skills are needed, such as once you are in startup, it's very easy and very jolly environment. You can say anything, you can have laugh as well, and you have leisure of time as well, I feel. Whereas in corporate side, you have to be very agile. You have to produce the work or outcome pretty quickly to convince people that you are one of the best in the field. I'll give you an example. In my work as chief medical officer, within 6 months, I produced three clinical research studies for the company. And the boss was very happy that they didn't had any kind of medical evidence before, and now they are looking at three clinical studies published in reputed journals for them. And then they can compete with their competitor who was already established brand in the market by giving that medical evidence, because in medical devices companies or let's say pharmaceuticals, clinical evidence is paramount. But I think medicine gives you enough of humbleness because you have to do all the hard work. You have to listen to people. You have to listen to patients. So different perspectives with your seniors, with your juniors, how you train them and everything. That helps to transform yourself as a leader in corporate side as well. However, the dynamics changes a little bit for sure. I understand that because at higher level, let's say I am a chief medical officer, and in my team usually I'm reporting to chief executive officer straight away, and it's a privately owned company. So you have to take care of that as well. It's all totally different dynamics. However, had it been a public company, usually I think the dynamics is a bit different. And of course, in startups as co-founder, I think you are much more free, you are more autonomous, but then you have to do your own jobs so as to, the whole team can progress forward. And the key is you should not be the rate limiting person in the team.
Which one do you like the most? Practicing surgery, managing a large private company, or working in a startup?
It's an interesting question. I mean, the first love is always the long lasting love, they say sometimes. But I think medicine, every setup has its own pros and cons. That's how I feel from my perspective. I mean, and I would say when you do surgery, it's very involving. The whole process of planning, then executing, and then seeing the outcome of that surgery is very gratifying. I always derive satisfaction from your job in two realms. One is extrinsic satisfaction and one is intrinsic satisfaction. And the extrinsic satisfaction is like respect, monetary outcomes, and the power it gives to you. That is extrinsic. So I think surgery nowadays doesn't give you that kind of enhanced monetary benefits or the power, but it gives you intrinsic satisfaction that you did something great for somebody's life and it's a life changing event because of you doing something meaningful for somebody else's life. Whereas I think from corporate side, especially the large company, the team is huge. So it sometimes is not able to make that much difference in as so many people, other people are also contributing to the forward progression of the organization. I would say I think those are the pro and cons for working in the corporate side. Whereas I think being a founder or entrepreneur, you can see your efforts turning into meaningful outcome pretty quickly. You do something and maybe in 10 days or 20 days, let's say, and I'll give you an example. We were struggling with market traction to show how our venture would be successful, and we got 2 or 3 letter of intent, and that's how it changed pretty quickly. I mean, I had a setup of meetings with few of my colleagues in medical side, and they were pretty generous in providing those letter of intent, and it changed pretty quickly how the investors were seeing the traction in the market for our venture. So, I mean, that is the beauty of being entrepreneur. But the con of that is sometimes it's a very uncertain path, and it doesn't sometimes fructify into something which you want that quick. So you have to devote a lot of time and effort into it. So I would say the medicine is stable and very certain. On a scale of 0 to 10, I will say it's 8 to 9. And usually doctors are less risk takers. I should mention that. For corporate side, I would say it's 7 to 8, maybe, or maybe 6 to 8, you can say, because the risk of losing jobs pretty quick. That is, I felt like a lot of layoffs, and I'm sorry but if somebody is from our listener as well, but that is the drawback. But then in the perks are also good. You get good pay, you get good status as well, good title also. Whereas with entrepreneurship, it's hard life, I think, for initial 2 to 5 years because nothing meaningful is there. They have to create the value and then only they see the value changed after a few years. Till then, you are just working in the dark. So I think that's how I will analyze all three situations.
Value creation, I think, is the most important factor. Whether you are
I
running a
agree.
startup or you are running a high stake surgery, the value from a surgery perspective needs to be a healthier outcome for your patient.
Correct.
And value in a startup means that you need to get from zero to one quite fast. Otherwise, you will be broke and then you'll be out of money.
For
In
sure.
corporate, value is creating shareholder value. We went to business school, so that's where we are taught nothing is more important than creating shareholder value, especially in a corporate environment. How do you bring innovation, especially in medical industry? How do you manage or push innovation in these environments? Are you a surgeon who does business, or are you a business leader who happens to be a surgeon?
For the answer of your first question, where you asked, like, I think medicine is stagnant branch. I think innovation doesn't happen that fast because of, as you mentioned, highly regulatory aspects of it. Especially when business, you can develop a product pretty quickly, but because of regulations, it will take ages sometimes to get it approved for sales in actual market. And I have understood it both easy way and hard way because I work in regulations as well. I work as a UKCA physician for Eurofins, which is one of the notified bodies. And I myself see their clinical trials and consult about what are the shortcomings in them. So I totally agree. It's a hard push, but I feel once you get past that barrier, it gives you advantage as well. And that's the whole key that, and I feel like you eliminate competition like in one go once you achieve it. So the value created is like tremendous once that get passed, and a differentiation for the companies is a lot. So, and that's the key because I can integrate all the thought process right from the creation of idea to the development of product and then product launch and then afterwards the regulatory approvals of it. I think I can justify how the whole journey of the product would be, especially in different contexts, in different healthcare systems, because I've worked in 4 to 6 countries as a surgeon. I worked in India, I worked in Austria, Germany, UK, and US. So even afterwards, once it's approved for regulations, I have that product roadmap for launch in different markets and how what should be the go-to market strategy. And I'm consulting few companies from US as well as from India how to launch for Indian companies to how to launch in US and UK, and how for US companies how to go for their clinical trials, data extraction, as well as how to launch into UK companies or UK or European market. Eh, It's a very unique kind of skill because not many people can do the way we as surgeons can. And not many surgeons think in that way because product journey is something which we as a surgeon at the ground doesn't know what all steps this product has traveled. Whereas all the engineers or all the people, let's say medical advisors, they don't know how the product will be used at the end phase, at the end of the innovation, and where and how it will fare. So I think that gives me the perspective to drive that clinical innovation in medicine. Of course, I agree it takes sometimes longer, but as I said, if there is no problems with licensing or approvals for regulatory bodies, then the differentiation is also not there. There is a lot of competition, and that is also, I mean, some competition is good for companies, but a lot of competition is like a negative thing, isn't it?
You are one of the rare few individuals who sit at the intersection of medicine, surgery, regulation, compliance, startup innovation, and also the corporate governance. Tell me more about leading people who you look up to, who are your contemporaries in this field, and how do you differentiate yourself from others?
That's a great question. I would say, in my experience, I think this kind of intersection is more found in US, So physicians executives are more common. I should not say common, more common, but still you can find few in US. And that made my decision as well to do such a journey quite difficult, I would say, because I was uncertain as well about my decision whether I should do MBA, whether I should go for such ventures, I should do corporate, roles or not. And I think my timing is not that great. I think in corporate side and in like entrepreneurship side, I think timing matters a lot. And why I'm saying it is because once you have to change your field, the timing should be that people are receptive of it. At the moment, I think whole world is like asking for 20 years of experience and 30 years of experience. And even those people who are already having experience, they are getting laid off. So I think the timing matters a lot. But I think in those are certain times as well, you can show your skills if you are effective enough, and but it takes longer for you to prove yourself.
Talking about self confidence, which has been a common thread right from your teenage, you chose to complete your MBA from Chicago Booth. It is arguably the world's most rigorous MBA program. After already establishing yourself as a successful surgeon with 17 years worth of clinical experience, why did you choose Chicago Booth, whereas you could have gone to any other business school? You could have cherry picked. What was the motivation behind it?
The issue was, how should I say, I felt like if you have to make money, you need to learn money. And I think more economics oriented and very well reputed in finance circles, this MBA made sense for me to do. And another bit was that they were doing executive MBA, which is equivalent to their regular MBA, which I was able to afford in my limited time, which I can take off from being surgeon, you see. So that made sense for me as well. That was one thing. Secondly, I was not knowing that I'll be that very well accepted into the program. It was during COVID. I got some time at hand and I tried to give send applications. And to my surprise, they were willing to give me some scholarship on the top of my fees, which made the deal to take the program a bit more lucrative. And hence, I did it from there. Of course, being one of the most reputable finance oriented program helped me to make my decision. But as you can see from my journey, I always like challenges. And that's another aspect which I like, that if I can do finance, then probably that would be a better thing rather than to do a healthcare oriented program, because I can do health. I can always extrapolate what I learned from a finance program to healthcare side. I don't need. I have plenty of experience working in the healthcare side at ground level, leadership level already in different organizations. So I was looking for more of a finance understanding and finance network as well.
Do you think in the current climate where everything is in flux and the biggest elephant in the room is AI making companies and boardrooms quite nervous about hiring talent? Where do you see this paying dividends in terms of your pedigree, both as a clinical surgeon, an entrepreneur, and business executive? Where do you see this panning out in a world which is very uncertain?
I totally agree, and I'm facing that as well in few prospective leads which I get. The first question is, okay, how many years of corporate experience you have? Of course, don't have like 10 years or 15 years of corporate experience. Of course, I have now 22 years of healthcare experience, but now I've built like a corporate experience of around 5 to 6 years as well. And I totally agree. I think experience is what they are looking for, but I think they forget that the fresh talent is sometimes able to outperform the experienced people pretty easily because they know new technology, they know new ways how to do the same job in lesser amount of time and much more efficiently. So I think my combined skills with healthcare, with executive MBA, having giving me strong foundations in financial principles as well as skills, plus the network as well as my corporate experience. and going forward, some touch of technology and IT. I think that's a unique combination which puts me into a kind of league which is having very few people probably who can combine such a skill and knowledge probably. So I'm pretty sure and certain I think future holds pretty good for me. Let's hope for that.
Future is really bright. I will attest to that. My belief is that everybody is trying to become a journalist and trying to ride on the wave of AI for good reasons or for bad reasons because it's a trend. Everybody needs to jump on. Tell me more about your experience with explosive AI advancement together with the slow pace of healthcare transformation. Yeah, this is a unique juxtaposition, right? I mean, healthcare moving snail slow, whereas frontier AI is working on a daily pace, right? Every week there is a new announcement and is bigger than the one before. So how do you digest the two together and find your bearing in the world we live in?
No, it's an interesting question, and I think I'm one of the guys who is who is placed in the midst of both because I work still as a practicing surgeon, and I see at the ground how they are trying to transform the healthcare. Whereas I am working with founders and co-founders who are working into AI startups. So I'm working as a co-founder with one of the companies who have built voice AI agent called as Desert, and they're trying to sell it in US and UK markets basically. And I think the adoption is pretty low, I would say. And that's common with any healthcare solution. And I think all the healthcare companies feel that way as well. Because I think in healthcare, all the personals give more importance to certainty and the risk appetite is very low. So they all feel any new AI solution with a lot of scrutiny and they believe that somebody else is going to test it and work on it. And then we'll have a proof whether it worked or not. And then only we are going to adopt it. So the burden of trying and testing is always put on somebody else rather than doing it yourself because nobody wants to take the risk. And usually it's a slow adopting industry. And that is the key problem with healthcare. Now I'm working with a solution which is, in administrative sides of healthcare. It's not directly related to clinical sides of it, where a lot of regulatory approvals are needed. And still, the adoption is a bit lower because of the mindset. Selling to healthcare people is very, very hard. That's what I felt. And it's because they go by people's word when they are procuring things rather than uh, like all the AI marketing or online. But on the same note, I think the adoption of digitalization is helping healthcare to become, let's say, prepared for large scale AI adoption. But in the world, I see a lot of disparity because if you see in Asian side of things in healthcare, there is no digitalization, not that much level. There's still paper prescriptions, paper notes for radiographs and MRI scans. They are still in fashion. Whereas in the West, let's say in UK, Europe, and US, everything is digital. The data collection is a bit easier, and hence AI can be trained pretty easily what you want to achieve with that in those setups. And I feel that's why going forward, the healthcare sector will have much more increased disparity in AI adoption. And I think if Asian market wants to catch up, India and China are like hub for developing AI solutions as well. But they don't use it at home. They have to sell it outside. And I think that is one of the key factors. Probably the transition will happen, that digitalization should happen in those countries also and then they can try and test it at their home, whether it's going to work or not. And that is one of the problems with all the developers, which is happening in Indian side or let's say, Asian side. They don't test their solutions. They just start marketing them, try to sell them straight away in UK and US markets, and then they don't fare that very well into the practical situation. And then, somebody who has been burnt once, they don't want to try any other AI solution then.
I think it requires creating a culture of innovation. Like you said, I think
Absolutely.
healthcare is slightly a bit more risk averse because the cost of actually making mistakes is quite high.
Absolutely.
And therefore, everybody defers the liability to a tried and tested and a robust solution. So that creates a lot of sludge and barriers to entry for newer companies. Do you think healthcare is ready for a SpaceX movement, just like aerospace was disrupted with SpaceX? Is healthcare out there ready, even in the US?
I think US is a big market and they try and test a lot. That's why I think it's innovative to a large extent. And plus there is a lot of data, as I said earlier, and a lot of digitalization which has already happened on the ground. So I don't be surprised if some startup comes and they might disrupt the market pretty quickly because of use of AI. However, I think all the solutions are, in healthcare are quite hyped as well sometimes because on the ground they don't fare that well. Let's say, for example, robotics. Robotics used the principle of navigation, and it has only become like a game changer in abdominal surgeries. In other surgeries, let's say in spinal operations or in knee replacements, hip replacements, I mean, in orthopedic surgeries, which is my background, there is a lot of controversy whether it's helpful, humans can do same similar operations, whether robot makes any difference or not. There are a lot of papers and medical evidence till now has suggested that it doesn't make huge amount of difference. But of course, it's more marketing gimmick. So where the money flows, eventually the thoughts flows. That's how I feel.
You're absolutely right. Where the money flows, the thoughts flow. I think that could be the theme of the conversation.
Absolutely. So same way in the AI as well. If you ask me in healthcare also, I think there's a lot of money being pumped. That's why there is a lot of hype about it. I think how much it's going to fare on the ground, because healthcare is something, as you mentioned, it cannot afford to have mistakes. So as in aerospace or in aviation industry, it has to be 100% foolproof. Then only the technology can be accepted. And that's the issue. AI is still not there, and it will take a long time for it to get there. I think maybe another 20 to 30 years.
On that, we both are millennials and we grew up in a time where we did not have access to computers. And I like to call it we were smarter than computers. I think that was, I think, a really apt analogy because stuff that we could memorize and we could solve, I don't think computers were able to solve. Tell me, how are you preparing your children for a time where computers are going to be smarter than them?
I think it all depends on preferences. And that's what I'm trying to imbibe. Personally, I feel I don't think the problem would be money. I don't think the problem would be comfort. I don't think the problem would be access to things going forward. And that's what I'm trying to teach them, that how to be happy, how to have a great environment around you of human touch, and how to progress and cruise along in life. So that is my focus rather than making them great in mathematics. And let's see how they're going to do, hopefully.
Same is going to be many more things, right? You and I did not have access to smartphones. I mean, I got my laptop when I was in my university. Inculcating good human values are going to be the determinant of having a more prosperous life and more connected life.
Absolutely. I think humans are usually works in fashion. There is a trend of few things which keeps changing, and I think there is a cycle. So I in going forward next 10, 20, or 30 years, I think we as a human race will definitely understand that we are going too much toward virtualism, and it's going to come the era of like our childhood time where the human connection was huge amount, technology was less, as you mentioned, we got our first phone later. And I see that trend slowly coming because In our kids' schools, people are prohibitive about the phones now, about the online searches. How about the screen time? If you see, they are very, very sensitive about this thing. Okay, not more than 1 hour. It's like, so if you see, I think going forward, we will understand what are the drawbacks of all these technologies, and slowly we will retract back to where we started from. And next 10, 20 years, I think will be the transition time in that. And I feel like if you see, especially we give and people pay a lot of money now to go to farms,
Detox.
see animals, and it's called as detox. So I think the trend is slowly coming. It used to be all free, but then we are going to pay for them again. So what will happen is we'll have enough of money and we'll start paying for all those things which were used to be free. But if somebody knows the art of using them, how they did it in our old times, I think those will be the successful people in next 20, 30 years, or they can inculcate good values into their kids, I feel.
On that note, Dr. Pannu, it's pleasure having you. Thank you very much for your time. And as always, it's a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gagan.